Right. Hello, everyone out there. I'm Thomas Hall, Executive Director of Clean Start, and welcome back to another Clean Start Perspectives. First, I want to recognize that Clean Start's perspectives are brought to you by SMUD, Chico Start, Fresno State, Witten Law, Baker Tilly, and River City Bank. Now, I'm excited for this perspective today because we're going back into how you can utilize AI effectively and how you can utilize AI to kind of um, express yourself more and make sure that you don't get overwhelmed by, AI watering down your identity. Earlier, you remember we had a AI presenter from Baker Tilly, one of the sponsors here, who talked about, some of the pitfalls and how you might organize your organization around AI. Well, today we have our guest, Scott Eggert, president, um, and with 10 years of marketing experience. And he's also been working on, creating a lot of videos and utilizing AI to make them better and help reach more people with it. So I wanted to sit down with him and find out how, one, we at Clean Start could utilize AI to reach more people and have a more effective message, but also have him explain how you can utilize AI to have a more effective message. So with that, I'm going to welcome Scott here and let him take over and introduce himself a little bit more. Scott?
Yeah, thank you. And good morning, all. This is just a fun opportunity and a really great conversation I'm glad to be part of. Um, I am the president of MKTNG. We're a marketing and PR agency located right here in Sacramento. We are celebrating 10 years of business this year. It's a very exciting milestone for us. And a longtime fan of Clean Start and just had
We love our fans.
yeah, and I had, honestly just hadn't been paying as much of attention, so I was really glad was having coffee recently with Brian actually. Brian, good to see you. And he's like, you got to get back connected. So had a great conversation with Thomas, and we were talking about just this topic actually, AI, and how can we be using it to make better content and get our content out there in front of more eyeballs, make it more digestible to the people that we want to be consuming it. And that led to us talking about this program. So really excited to be here. And yeah, I'm ready to jump in. You want me to
Go for it. Yeah.
kick this off here? Let me share my screen here. Find the right window. As always, too many tabs.
Uh-uh. Okay. Huh?
All right. So here we are. So one of the things that we really want to stress, and this is critical, we stress this with all of our clients, but in the category of clean tech, many of you are pioneering new approaches, new technologies, and those things always come with questions. And so the, trust quotient that is required for a new technology is really high. And so there's even more emphasis put on new technologies and innovations that they meet a threshold and that you're, carrying technology with a level of authenticity and trustworthiness. And so we just want to emphasize that there's a lot of hype out there about AI, and people's like create a system and launch 100 agents and that'll do all your social media posting, and we're just not huge advocates of that approach, and definitely for a startup in clean tech, things could get wildly out of control. So we're big fans of human in the loop, human centered content creation, and using AI to amplify your voice. So we're going to go through some tactics that you can use to use AI to power your strategy to to hone your voice so that multiple people on your team could access a solid voice of the brand, and then how to use AI to develop keystone pieces of content, and then also to cut it up and make it digestible for the public at large. So we'll run through this, and in the spirit of this whole presentation, I actually developed this all using this little HTML presentation is embedded in our website, and I'll provide a link after this. And I use this. I had Gemini develop this infographic we're going to walk through. So anyway, the core idea is AI as an authenticity amplifier. So the goal again is not to replace your unique voice with AI, but to use AI as a powerful assistant. You can automate repetitive tasks, free up your time, and you know allow you to do other core things. But it should never be a replacement for you and your voice. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to go through some ways that you can use AI to hone a voice that's being represented through the content. So yeah, we talked about command and control. So again, there's a lot of applications out there that are like, just dump some stuff in here and hit pound the easy button, and out comes a video or a podcast or something. Um, and what we caution people is make sure you have the ability to curate that final output. And you can do that with just a little bit more trouble and a little bit more effort. And I'll share a couple of the tools that we use to do that. But don't outsource your voice to an algorithm. Uh, stay in control of the final output. So one of the ways you can fine tune the voice. So I'm sure many of you are using, Chat GPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever you're using. Um, Most of them have what's called a RAG functionality. This is essentially where you can take documents and put it in a folder and use that folder as a reference for whatever your queries or your content development is. And we're big fans of this. And so what this requires, however, is that you take the time to create some foundational elements about your organization. So, what is your company's identity? Like, what is you know, this is who you are, the market that you serve, the mission, the vision, and the core values of your organization. These are good things for any organization to have documented to begin with. But take time to put all that into a singular document. Does not have to be a huge library of content. It can really be 1 or 2 pages. But take all that in there. You want to define who your audience is, what your buyer persona looks like, voice and style characteristics, contextual modifiers. So this is, specify the type of content and the platform to help the AI adapt tone and format.
So I got a question
Um,
for you, Scott.
yeah,
On
absolutely.
these documents that come in, we have a lot of startups and we work with like their value proposition, their startup canvas, where they kind of try to get, what their base kind of strategy that they're testing and trying to put out there is. Is that something where you could put those in there to kind of help you create your
Yeah,
voice on things, or
absolutely.
is
Yeah.
there
And
anything you
like,
shouldn't put in there?
um, I would say be careful putting a document in there that might have proprietary information because that could find its way into your output. So excellent question, Thomas.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
don't put your
you
social
don't want to put.
security number in it.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we always recommend this, human in the loop. Like you should be keeping an eye on what the outputs are in all circumstances. But essentially, yeah, don't give it anything that you don't put anything in that you don't want coming out, right?
Yeah, and one thing I found that was kind of a shortcut on for at least for me when I was kind of discovering stuff that you were mentioning there is it asked me if I wanted to write like I write on Clean Start blogs in the past because it had already had them, and it's like, oh, do you want to sound like yourself in the past there? And I'm like,
Right.
okay, do I am I comfortable with what I sounded like back then, or have I grown? So, but it was an
So
interesting thing.
this is also a very good point is, there was kind of an initial thing of like, well, just give it everything you've ever written and then it'll learn your voice, right?
Hmm.
But you do have to leave room for that. Like, have we grown? Has our audience changed? Like, are we serving the same people we did 5 years ago? Because maybe we were talking to a different audience, right?
Hmm.
Maybe we've had key changes in our product and market fit. And so you want to be aware of that thing, of those evolutions in your business. And frankly, that's why like there's almost a don't you don't need to give it too much.
Hmm.
Like we really just like this could all fit on one document. And then keep in mind that the AI doesn't care what it looks like. In fact, it's better if it's not a PDF. It's better if you can put it into even Google Docs now you can export as an MD file, .md. And what that does is it really is like simplifies the format and it makes it digestible for the LM to
That's good. I haven't
learn.
heard that before. So export as a dot MD, dot medical
Yeah.
doctor, and that simplifies it for the AI. All right.
Yeah, because basically, like these documents actually have to be vectorized and then chunked
Mhm.
into pieces that the LM can then take in. And so, part of the thing is like where does it chunk? How big are the chunks? And so, if you give it a giant document, you may have disjointed pieces of data. It's kind of a strange thing. But with these documents, like if you want to just tell your AI, here's how we speak and here's how we talk, this really can be a simple one-page document. More is not necessarily better. And then this is the type of document that's easy to go in and change. You go, oh, you know what? We're no longer doing business with this type of person. We're doing business with this type of person. You can go in, make the update, and you would be surprised at how much that will change the voice. Because again, what happens is it's kind of a it's kind of a form of like prompt augmentation. So what's happening is you go to the AI and you say, hey, I want to generate some blog ideas for XYZ. It goes and it looks in this folder and goes, well, who are we talking to? Like it makes it so that, prompt writing is its own uh, art form. It's science, frankly. And this
It,
helps you
it
not have
always
to write the full prompt every time.
it always baffled me like the negative prompts when someone told me like if you want to make when they're doing a lot of generative AI ish, images and they're like, well, how do we get it to stop having six fingers or four fingers? You tell it not to.
Right.
It's like you're like, don't have six fingers, don't have four fingers. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Please give us the right number of fingers. Um,
preferably
so
more
what's
than
really
one.
cool is this is a way to kind of uh, fine tune your AI. And what's great is you can share this with then other people on your team. So
Mhm.
what happens is if you end up with 5 people in the office working on single projects or multiple projects, they're going to prompt differently. So if everybody can use the same document in their RAG or their project file, and even ideally use the same LM, it can really help everybody to have similar outputs and keep your content and your lexicon and brand voice in tune. And we this is a real upfront like thing to do. So because at the beginning of your process, we want you to use, in order to have your kind of authentic, brand approach, you can use AI in the brainstorming process, right? And so this this document will help guide your brainstorming, right? So, oh, hey, you need to reach this marketplace. This is your buyer persona. And so as you brainstorm, this will guide your outputs and help you even at the very early stage of generating what is it I want to do? What's the blog post or the podcast I want to record? Give me an outline and give me a direction. And so this is kind of a cornerstone piece of content you want to develop uh, really early on and put it in a folder and then brainstorm against it. Very key. So after you fine tune that voice, then again, you're going to start your brainstorming and you're going to start talking about keystone pieces of content. And so this is a tactic that has worked really well with our clients, and I'll give you guys some examples here shortly. But you know, things that used to be big lifts are now very accessible, and in part due to AI and also just sort of due to the scaling of technology. But like a podcast, everybody's got a podcast now. Well, podcasts are not something that you really need to poo-poo, right? They can be fantastic opportunities for you to get together with other subject matter experts, have conversations like we're having right now, and you record those and they turn into great, half hour, 45 minutes, 3 hours if you want to go the Joe Rogan route or what have you. Um, and that those seem like, who's going to sit and watch those? Maybe you don't care who sits and watches the entire thing. For one, just having a podcast is authority establishing. But then what you do is you follow on with the AI tools. I'll if we want later, I have Opus Clip open. We use Opus Clip. It's a great way to
I
take a
want to see it.
long
Yeah.
podcast and chunk it up into 30, 60, 90-second clips. And then you've got a big piece of content that's turned into a bunch of digestible little, an answer to a single question.
And we'll see how that works on this one, maybe. I like to think that this discussion, this Clean Starts like podcast gives me authority despite my lagwagon and so t-shirt and suicidal tendencies hat. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, and then the other, I'm getting into my case studies here, but let's get down here. Human touch points again. So this is about that kind of that cycle, right? So you have pre-prompting, AI generation, human polish, publish, and then create derivative content. So this is sort of that cycle I was talking about. Pre-prompting, again, establish your that foundational bit of, brand voice. Who are we talking to? How do we speak? How do we communicate? What sort of content does our market need? And these are great also conversations you can have with AI. Say we're this type of company developing this type of technology. We think this is our market. Who are some other people who could use clients that might be looking for this type of tech, and use those conversations with AI to develop a really sharp focus on who your market needs to be. Then you get into the content creation. You can use AI to assist you in that. Again, the human polish. Again, taking a second look at it, make sure that everything is tuned, and then publish. And then again, how can you repurpose that content? We'll go into another use case that I'll share with you is uh, AI podcasting. So we can start with podcasting, we can end with podcasts. So you can now take written content and give it to an AI product and generate a podcast from it.
Really helpful if you don't like your voice.
It can be right. A lot of people are, camera shy. They don't feel like they've, got a personality or whatever. There are some great ways you can outsource some of that stuff to AI.
And there's also a lot of innovation that you can do with what you kind of said right there. Like, so last night, I was with my friends and we play Dungeons and Dragons, and we have an AI app that tracks us, and then it creates a podcast of our last, session. So it literally take the, several hours and condenses down to a 15-minute recap of what we did, and it's fantastic and a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful. And so here are some tools: AI for video creation from text. You can create video, you can create audio. Some of you might be familiar with the script. We use Podcastle quite a bit. I mentioned Opus Clip earlier. Uh, converting written content into digital, like video, photography, podcast presentation. You can go written to video, and you can go video to written. Like you can just really move things back and forth one place to another. So we do when we have a client who creates a podcast, that'll be 45 minutes to an hour conversation. That video becomes a YouTube video, so someone can go and watch the whole thing. The YouTube video gets embedded into a blog post on their website. Along with that video goes a transcript, so they're getting all the like Google juice, from the conversation. So, and then we also have a summary of that conversation. So someone actually just wants to read like a couple paragraph summary of what was discussed on the podcast, and then you have just all the Opus clips that we get out of it, which is 6, 8, or however many clips we want to produce. And so here you have one piece of content that feeds the entire content ecosystem for a company. Content for their website, content for social media, content for email marketing, short, long, written, viewable content. So you can really like take big content deliveries and make them into all sorts of basically multimedia. So I'll give you a couple of use cases. I've mentioned Opus Clip now 3 times, but so we use JellyPod. So I mentioned taking written content and converting that into a podcast. And so many of you might be familiar with Notebook LM. That's a Google product, and it's been probably close to a year now. This product has been out. You can take a ton of written content and dump it into a Notebook LM. You smash a button and it spits out a podcast. And was a very exciting and really transformative idea to convert written content into a podcast. And in case it's not obvious, the value in that is, for me, hearing 2 people talk about a topic is much more engaging for my mind to track what's going on rather than having somebody just read content, right?
Yeah, I think that really helps.
Yeah. So it just was a huge, a really transformative piece of technology. But here's the catch about Notebook LM is it's that easy button I was kind of warning about. You really don't have a lot of control over how the AI interprets your material and spits out that podcast. I've tried to keep my eye on if they're going to change that. They keep improving it. They just have rolled out that now you can generate a slideshow to go with your podcast. So they are improving that product, but we've been leery about using it for clients because we like to have a little bit of control. So enter this product called JellyPod, and what you get with JellyPod here, I actually had this teed up. So we have this in the loop podcast that we've been developing. We've got 3 in the can, and actually I thought, well, it'd be cool to turn this conversation this morning into its own podcast, right? So I have an outline that I developed to go through this and to create the HTML presentation that's available on our website. And so it allows you to essentially enter your written content. And what JellyPod does was it gives you an outline. So this content goes in 3 different phases. You put in your written content, and this can be, you can see right here, one of 20 sources used. So you can put in a whole bunch of different content into this thing, and it'll distill all of it down and create an outline. And then it creates an outline. You can edit the outline. So this is really cool. And then once you are done editing this outline, you can click generate a script. And the next phase is you get the script of the podcast. And you can go in and edit the script. And nothing's recorded yet. So you're not actually at this phase listening to the output, but you can go in and go, oh, this person says this and it's not quite right, and you can edit it. or they've taken kind of a disinteresting spin on your idea, you can fix it. And then the final step is you can generate the actual podcast with the voices. And what we like about JellyPod is you actually can create the hosts. So it has a library of kind of predefined hosts, but you can create your own. And they're connected with this platform called 11 Labs, which is the company right now who's doing some of the best work on AI voices. And you could also clone your own voice, which to me is a little creepy. So we should talk a little bit about that. Like, there's some creepy ideas. Like, do I want an AI host with my name and my voice talking on my behalf? What if it says something I don't like? Like, I don't know. It's just it's that's a weird thing for me. I think some people might be really into it. If you have a founder or a key person who would be great to host a podcast, but they don't have the time or inclination, you could wade into those waters and you could say, "Hey, let's let's create a digital twin for our key employee."
I'm
But
gonna make
again, I
more of
would
my
keep
meetings in person now.
I would just, keep a tight rein on, like, what are they saying? Like, do I want a digital twin out talking for me? Um, but it's really cool. So we actually, we have somebody on our team, Laura Braden, and we actually, I fashioned a host in inspired by her persona, I'll say, right? And it's great. She has her own backstory, and it's really cool. So you can have recurring hosts host your podcast for your brand. And what we're doing is we're just have started converting old blog posts, right? Like, oh, we wrote this really great blog post. And you can see here under episode outline, it says, this one with just today's material is like 1 to 3 minutes long. By the time I'm done, it'll probably be 6 to 10 minutes long, a lot shorter than I have been. But it's pretty cool. Great way to take written content and put it in a digital form. Oh, and this platform, by the way, can then syndicate content to all the podcast platforms. So Spotify, Pandora, iHeartMedia. So you can. This is the other thing, is taking your content and putting it like in the palm of the hand or on the devices where people you do business with are taking in this sort of content is very cool. So making
Yeah.
sure that you're getting your content like where your target market can just take it with them on their walk or to the gym in the morning is pretty awesome. And then this is just a little note about content marketing 101. I said this earlier, but uh, taking these keystone pieces of content and just thinking about where you're going to publish them and getting out there and on all the devices and then the different media formats is just a reminder. Uh, all points should lead back to your website, right? Make sure that your website is the central hub of your multimedia empire. So it's great to develop these podcasts, develop the video content. Just keep in mind, like, if someone is like, "Oh, I heard this great podcast," or "I saw this video on Instagram or TikTok," wherever you're going to put it out there, make sure these things are findable on your website, right? So if people go, "Oh, I heard about this great technology," um, they need to have confirmation that this was you when they come look for it on your website. Anyway, that's the end of the presentation. I'd love to hear what people think. Anybody have any
Oh,
question?
I was initially like kind of thinking like you could every day go and like collect a whole bunch of news articles that you like, throw them into this, tell it to make a 3-minute podcast of you discussing the news, and
Yeah.
then put it up. And how much time would that take usually to do one of these?
Well, you could automate the whole thing, Thomas. There's
Okay.
people, and people do. So what you're talking about is there's people who just have basically created podcasts that are daily news digests,
Hmm.
and they're 15 minutes or less. and they're entirely AI generated, and nobody ever touches or manipulates it. So again, if you're doing this for your company, we would say, hey, don't be hands
Have a
off.
human in there at some point.
Yeah, at some point if you want this to represent and carry your brand message out there, you need to have some sort of hand in it. I mean, fact is, you can give, again, using these cornerstone documents and giving your brand voice and perspective to an AI, you can influence that final product in the
Hmm.
strategy and the agents that are going to go out and do the work for you. So you can greatly influence what the output looks like. But again, if it's going to carry your brand message, you want to take a look at it.
Yeah, on a similar thing, like I feel like people notice when AI is wrong when it's something that's in their field usually, right? If I'm looking up something that is not that I don't have knowledge of, AI can fool me all day, right? So a lot of this, it's like you have someone who's maybe a technical founder at a clean tech company, and they're like, all right, I maybe am not thrilled with my voice. They've never considered themselves like the face of an organization. They're a real technical, founder. So they go to AI, sorry, they go to AI to help them try to find a voice on that. And at what point should they, I guess, or how would they make sure that they aren't getting, I guess, fed a fake voice, if you kind of get what I mean, where they're like, okay, they don't know what good marketing is, they don't know what good branding is, and they're trusting AI on it. How should they go about trying to figure out if it actually is good or if AI is feeding them really bad suggestions?
Right. Right. Um, you know, Brian just asked a really good question, which was, ironically, listened to a podcast yesterday on the way to work. Takeaway was that AI too often agrees with the questions asked. How do you teach AI to be more independent from your viewpoint? And yeah, great question. And same answer as how do I get five fingers on the person in my digital artwork? Tell it like, hey, AI, I want you to tell me if this is a bad idea or not. And I do find myself asking AI that often.
Hmm.
Or you could actually include in your prompt, give me the counter argument. Actually, that would probably be a stronger prompt. Would
Hmm.
be to tell me why this is a bad idea, right? Argue both sides. Hey, hey, I was thinking about vandalizing my neighbor's house. You really are likely to get like that's a great idea.
They're like, I suggest
Um,
this paint.
yeah, we recommend buy the chalk paint and not the permanent paint.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. Anyway, there is a tendency of AI can be very reaffirming and sometimes
Almost
often too
human
much.
that way.
It is,
Um,
yeah. It wants us to like it for sure.
I saw Drew had his hand up. Drew, do you have a question?
Yeah, hey, what's up, guys? It's how you guys doing?
I'm
Um,
good.
hey, I just wanted to ask real quick, how often do you guys drop new, podcast episodes? And then second leg of that question is, do you guys find yourself having to do a lot of editing when you're utilizing these AI programs before you actually publish?
So we like so the podcast that we're producing for clients right now, we're on a very like regimented schedule. So and it doesn't have to be, if it's once a week, it's once a week. If it's every 3 weeks, it's every 3 weeks. If it's once a month, we just make sure that we maintain a schedule and we meet it. Um, and to your question about editing, it's at every single step we're editing, and that's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
we use products that, if anything, ask us, they give us too many opportunities to edit, because the final product, which is whatever is being consumed by the public, uh, we want it to reflect the best positive light on our client and make sure that their voice shines through.
Yeah, I guess what I meant though is do you how many hours do you spend editing, I guess is really the question.
Oh, more than I'd like, but it's a lot less than, if I were doing everything in like Adobe Premiere 2 or 3 years ago, you know, producing a single, episode of a podcast, 5 years ago would probably be, $2,000 to $5,000, right? If
Yeah.
you get professional cameras, you've got multi-camera shoot, you've got an editing lab, you got to deal with music and all the stuff, and AI has just made that incredibly accessible. So, uh, but we're doing a lot of editing. If you go to the Opus Clip website, I guarantee you're going to get 10 ads today for Opus Clip, and their ads are very much like, hey, I put my thing in there, and now I have 30 social media video posts, and it's not it. It's a great platform. We're big fans, but oftentimes we're like, oh, if it had just left another 10 seconds, it would have been a much better clip. So we're often going in there and making it a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, adding a little bit before. But but honestly, the task of editing is so easy because you're not even editing video anymore. There's actually a transcript. So you can say, oh, I want to include this sentence where he started with this little bit. You go into the transcript, you select the text, and it automatically edits the video and drops it in. Uh,
At,
so it's wonderfully simple.
at CleanStar, we have been trying to script to make shorter videos on it, and I would say 1 in 10 clips that it makes is usable.
Right.
And because you'll get a lot of ones where I think one of them I was literally putting in negative prompts, and I think it was understanding the negative prompts to be no, this is what he wants.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, so it's like okay, yeah,
Yeah,
making it
I've
tough.
not I've not tried the Descript. We used for our long form editing, we use Podcastle, which also claims to have this short clip feature. We've not found it to be very useful. Frankly, I feel like this has always been the case, right? When the platforms get to where they're like, all full featured, they get diluted and wonky and just don't quite execute perfectly on all
Mhm.
of them. And so we have just found there's typically a tool that focuses just on the little clip or on the long form presentation, and they just tend to do better if they focus on, their primary feature set.
Mhm.
Opus Clip, what I like about it is it does allow you to say, hey, this is a podcast about employment and community development and jobs. And so you can give it those keywords, and it does kind of hunt for that content. So you get higher relevancy. But, it's hit or miss.
So is there you talked about the hub and then the spoke. Is there a different value that you feel between some of the different spokes between different podcasting platforms, their hub?
I think it matters purely on who your target is,
Okay.
right? So uh, we have companies that are construction companies that own quarries and build roads in the North State. So like kind of Bernie, Lassen County, even, right?
Mhm.
And so in this client's world, there's no newspaper, so there's no print media up there.
Mhm.
Uh, and broadcast, there's not really any broadcast that is relevant to their market. So now you have a business owner who's hosting podcasts, talking to people from the 4-H, who are selling livestock at the local county fair, talking to former county board supervisors. We're going to have the founder of Black Bear Diner, who lives up there, is going to be a guest soon. Breaking news. But anyway, so he's now like one of the most relevant media personalities for that entire region, right? And so it's a really interesting thing. And for him, he's like, so podcasting is what people use up there because the radio stations that are up there don't really kind of make it through the mountains and the hills from community to community. And so yeah, so it really just can be driven by who's your audience and who your users are and what they're using. So, we're big evangelists of try a little bit of everything and measure and see where you get movement.
Um, so we're creating podcasts with this, creating all sorts of different types of content. Um, do you have any like kind of feedback on like I guess there's kind of business content that gets needs to get created too often, like in startups, pitch decks, or kind of business plans. Have you seen anyone try doing that or any pitfalls? Is this a good or a bad idea?
I have not. I've yet to find the like magic bullet with that. I'll tell you, in creating just the Gemini outline for this presentation, I did like I Googled. I'm like, oh, what's the best like deck tool and infographic tool that's generated from outlines? And I tried like three different, and they were all garbage. They just some of them were looked like 15, 20 years ago designs. Um, trade they it tried to distill what was already an outline, like way made it too concise, so it just felt like it meant nothing. I will say we have a client who we did a pitch deck on beautiful AI, which was turned out very nice, but still has a lot of capacity to get kind of dumb, frankly. So always having this is kind of back to having strong brand guidelines and a designer,
Mhm.
in your pocket somehow. Outsource a little bit of design and make sure that your brand, your voice and your colors and fonts and everything like that are dialed in. Will go a long way.
Yeah, I think that's really some good advice. I know on Canva they you can create kind of your brand and copy it across things on their designs on it. I'd really always worry about on doing a pitch deck on it is that like unless the AI is pitching, um, if AI makes your deck or does too much, and you're pitching it and then you don't really fully know your deck. And that's
Right,
where, you get someone asking you a question about something that like looked really cool and you left it in, and then you realize you don't quite know that like you thought you did.
right.
And it only came up because AI told you that's what would be good. So
Well, yeah. When I was generating the outline for this talk, it was like you can use tools like DALL-E, and I'm like, DALL-E, like who's like that's pre chat GPT. Like, I mean, it was the
yeah,
OpenAI product, right? Where I'm like, nobody goes to DALL-E.com and generates like photos anymore. So every once in a while it'll slip something in there that could make you look really dumb. And we have a question a comment from Laura. Good. Hi, Laura. I say no to AI creating your pitch deck, but it can help you figure out some of the stuff you should include. Absolutely. Yeah.
that's it.
That's the
Like, tell
thing
me
is
the
if
counter argument sort of thing.
yeah, I would be huge into again, like if you could like work it out with whatever AI your favorite is, Gemini, Claude, OpenAI, um, like have that conversation and get the deck, like the headlines and the bullet points, and then move from the outline into an AI generating like the graphics and the visuals, which again I haven't found the tool that does that automatically. But Laura's absolutely right. Like this whole like I'm doing a startup in this category, and then having it do everything for you is a losing combination. And
Yeah.
frankly, what are you doing? AI is it's just pattern recognition. It's just going to regurgitate something that 100 other companies are doing. And so, are you really
And
innovating if an AI can,
and
simulate your innovation?
and like we said, like AI wants to please you. So it's going to
Yes,
give you something to please you. And I guarantee you, investors or people that you pitch there, they're not there to please you. They're not
right.
going to have look at it the same way that you look at it. Um, And having AI make something to please yourself is going to end in disaster when you get reviewed by someone.
Yeah. Laura, you make a good point about, especially if you're over explaining. Like,
Yeah.
there's some often where we uh, Brian's a co-coach with me in SVP, and we do the fast pitch program, which we were just talking about yesterday. And so we get nonprofits, and they put together a pitch and go, well, your pitch is 5 minutes long. It's got to be three. So we'll put it into an AI, and we'll say, hey, make this 3 minutes long, you know. And again, I don't take that as gospel, but you'll be like, it cuts what it thinks should be cut. And it's just an interesting way to get a quick perspective.
That's where you have to do it five different ways. And then you
You could
pick
also do that, right?
yeah, and then pick the one that works, you know. Never ask AI to do, if you're creating content, in my opinion, never ask it to do it once. Always ask it to do it at least 3 to 5 times because it'll give you 3 to 5 different ways. And then when you go and you have that next step, like on your graph, where you're like, okay, it creates the content, then you have the person that comes in and they kind of clean it up for what they really want. When you have 3 to 5 versions of the same thing, it's so much easier to clean it up and make it into what you want, I find.
I'm also a big so I think that's great advice, and I'm also a big fan of like give it a different voice. So I'll say like, what would this sound like if Barack Obama was reading this, or what would it sound like if MLK or some great like writer or orator was
I
gonna
typically do
like.
Snooki from Jersey Shore.
Well, there you go. See.
None of those blogs have made it to the website though.
But yeah, like give it a different perspective essentially, and just see Pee Wee Herman. Yeah,
There you
fantastic.
go.
Uh, and just see what comes out is often just a good to give you a different perspective. And again, it's never an output I would like take uh fully, but usually it's like, oh, that's actually a good idea. I like the rhythm of this. I like the repeating of this. It can be really good.
I appreciate Laura Good's comment on it. It depends on what she's doing, how many times she'd ask. If it's a polite email reply, she's doing it once, which means that she couldn't write a polite one on on her own. And there's a reason probably for that.
Right. Well, and there
Thomas,
is this.
that is so true. I often write a terse email and then I copy and paste it into chat and say, make this nicer.
So when I get these
Uh,
long, flowy, nice emails from you, and initially it was, but
I I had a client last year who I could tell all of his emails were uh out of AI, and it really did start to like rub on me. I was like, stop sending me these long like I don't know. They just get to something. The voice gets watered down.
yeah,
But there is something to be said about that doing it only once, Laura, because I will say like I find like the more derivatives you get, the further you get like down the line, you kind of lose the thread. And I'm like, wait, what is this? What was this originally about? Like, you got to kind of revisit the original intent. It's like the whole copy of a copy.
yeah. And do we have any other questions from the audience? So let's kind of review the tools that you had there. There was, well, Loop is your podcast, right? No,
Oh, In the Loop.
In the
Yeah, In
Loop
the
is your
Loop is
podcast.
our
Um,
AI created podcast. We're only like 3 or 4 episodes deep on that, but it's been a lot of fun.
and the tools that you kind of recommended, I said Clean Start uses Descript to mediocre success, but you had mentioned the tools were
Podcastle is what we use.
Podcastle,
Yeah, very similar. We know people use Descript, something River. There's anyway, there's 2 or 3 really good podcasting platforms. Podcastle does really good by us.
okay, and what was that one that was? It was a different one that you had up, but there's two that you had up.
Jellypod is what we use for the written content. Turn into an outline, turn into a script, pick your AI voices. It's a great
Podcastle,
platform.
Jelly,
Yep.
and you're gonna give us that link so we can check out the stuff that you went over with.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap us up here. I want to thank Scott for joining us today. If we can get to give him a big round of applause, it's really
No,
appreciated.
great job. Great
Uh,
job.
we need to have more kind of discussions on how people are kind of figuring out AI, I think, because it's every time I feel like I learn a little bit more. I want to thank our supporters, SMUD, Chico Start, Fresno State, Winton Law, Baker Tilly, and River City. If you're curious about our last podcast on or discussion on AI, it's with Baker Tilly, and you can see that on our YouTube channel, and you can follow us through everything. Thank you for attending, and hopefully see you at future Clean Start Perspectives.